So now let's talk about e-cigarettes. Are e-cigarettes justified? So the e-cigarettes really emerged within the last decade or so. It has evolved very dramatically and changed quite a bit. The first generation e-cigarettes were very simple, limited functionality, inefficient nicotine delivery with very short charge time, but single voltage. But then there are second generation e-cigs that had larger batteries, refillable cartridges, more efficient nicotine delivery, longer charge time, but adjustable voltage. And then finally, we are at a stage of the third generation e-cigarettes, which are very advanced personal vaporizers. And the nicotine delivery matches that of conventional cigarettes. And these are very customizable, adjustable, and refillable devices, and has really become quite popular. Now, from the perspective of smoking cessation, e-cigarettes do provide some advantages. It is considered an acceptable substitute to smoking tobacco cigarettes. And the director of the Office on Smoking and Health for the CDC in the United States stated that there's enough evidence to say that switching to electronic cigarettes from tobacco, smoke cigarettes, would likely be healthier, and that there's some evidence to suggest that it can help in cessation. The best randomized trial published to date came out in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2019. It was a randomized controlled trial of almost 1,000 smokers in the UK, and they were given either e-cigarettes or a nicotine replacement therapy, with the outcome being 1 year abstinence with biochemical validation. And those who were randomized to the e-cigarette group had twice the 1 year abstinence rate than the nicotine replacement. So about 20% success rate in the e-cigarette group and about 10% in the NRT group. And no difference in the incidence of wheezing or other respiratory problems or other ailments associated with e-cigarettes at all. Now, that said, there are some concerns and disadvantages with e-cigarettes. Now, there are lots of people who do utilize e-cigarettes, but does not help them to quit. And in fact, this can create a problem where they become dual users, meaning these individuals will keep continuing to smoke their tobacco and utilize e-cigarettes when they're not able to smoke their tobacco. So the net effect is actually increased nicotine exposure without any reduction in tobacco exposure, which actually probably may be worse. And these devices can also be modified to deliver other types of substances, like THC, for example, or psychedelics or other drugs of misuse. And these devices may be utilized by youth. And that's probably the biggest concern that we have at this point, is that the prevalence of vaping, e-cigarette use among the youth has skyrocketed in the last 5 to 10 years. And in fact, e-cigarettes is the most commonly utilized tobacco product or nicotine product among the youth today. And now, in addition to that, there have been increasing reports of vaping-related lung injuries. Now, these are typically in the context of whether it's illicitly produced vaping products, particularly those containing THC. But at this point, it's unclear exactly what's causing it. But individuals with this illness report using e-cigarettes by vaping or dabbing, with imaging studies showing lung injury, with absence of any evidence for infectious causes that leads to these injuries, and then absence of any alternative plausible diagnoses. And current recommendation by the CDC is to avoid utilizing these products completely. Some states have resorted to banning flavoring agents that are utilized in these products, which is thought to be the culprit for the vaping-related injury. So the recommendation for now is for people to avoid it if necessary, and certainly the flavoring agents that are added should be avoided at all costs. So it may be a helpful device to stop smoking or reduce smoking, but in adolescents and youth, the data is very strongly suggest that if individuals initiate vaping with e-cigarettes, they have a higher likelihood of picking up tobacco smoking later in life. So this is completely going in the opposite direction of the success that we've had with reducing tobacco smoking in the United States, but the introduction of vaping may actually begin to reverse that. Now, the data from CDC suggests that currently 12th graders in the United States, probably over a third of them endorse having vaped within the past year. And that for among 8th graders, it might be as much as 1 in 5 may have tried vaping in the past year. So this is an emerging problem and a serious concern. So key points. E-cigarettes from a legitimate manufacturer may be safer than cigarette smoking, but they are not risk-free. And clinicians and patients need to be educated about the emergence of vaping-related lung disease. And e-cigarettes may be a viable smoking cessation strategy compared to NRT.